Well, good morning, everybody. Thursday, the 28th of May. So, I don't know how you're feeling, but winter is definitely here. And so, please, just an encouragement, especially when we think about this virus, this pandemic that we're in, please remember to stay warm, stay safe, and if need be, boost yourself with things like a bit of vitamin C and that kind of stuff. And please, I'm not any doctor or medical expert, but just stay safe at the moment. And especially when we think about level 3 and the restrictions starting to be eased, let's continue just to be safe. And now's not a time to kind of get reckless. And really, really please, I think now's a time when we're able to start moving around a lot more, that our Christian witness needs to be so above reproach that when people see us and they see our actions, they see Christ. But more than that, they see that, hey, maybe these people really care about me, because they know that we do. We love people and we care about people. But this morning, I have the privilege to continue our journey in Philippians. And so this morning, I want to kind of pick up a thought from chapter 4 in just 2 verses, and pick up a thought on what Paul is saying here. And we see Paul starting to come to the end of his letter to the church in Philippi. And again, a very, very practical book. And that kind of ties into exactly what I want to share with this morning. So I think before I continue, let's maybe read the 2 verses this morning and see what we can pick up from them. So Philippians 4, verses 8 and 9. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you have learned and received from me, everything you heard me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. I don't know about you, but that's a very sort of practical call to living life differently. And what am I getting at? Where he says, fix your thoughts on what is true, fix your thoughts on what is right and pure and honorable and admirable. And so we know there's that old saying that garbage in, garbage out, that our actions reflect our innermost being. And so, I think when we look at it, we kind of get to this point realizing that it's not just good enough to read scripture and to know scripture. We need to be putting scripture into practice in our daily lives. And for me, that's why, when you see the stuff that I've been sharing, that I enjoy putting out a practical challenge at the end of it. And it's something that goes almost like, so what? So we've read this, so what does this mean to me? And so I continue to do that. And for me, that got me thinking. We're moving into this time that is different. And we're going to be going into a new normality and things like that. But it's also a time where we should, as believers, be fixing our thoughts on what is right, what is pure, what is true, what is admirable. That when we start thinking about it, I've just been amazed just going through Facebook and chatting to some of my other friends who are in ministry, and just seeing the thoughts that they're grappling with and wrestling with. And it kind of got me to this thought, what is our focus actually on? And so when we start thinking about that, what is our focus actually on? And so I started thinking for myself, what has my focus been on recently? Has my focus been on Christ and sharing the gospel in whatever form that I have? Has it been there? Or has my focus kind of been blurred because of other things that I've been doing? And I started thinking, like, what have I been doing on an average day? What have I kind of been doing every single day during this last almost 2 months that we've been in? I've been watching lots of Netflix in terms of watching series, spending time with Helen, doing a bit of gardening, reading a lot. And then I actually started thinking, but what about all the video editing that I've been doing? And really started thinking, but Jordan, you've been challenging people to put this into practice. How have you been putting this into practice? And it's still a thought that I'm wrestling with and grappling with, because I think even though, we think about that, we become so accustomed to the way things always were, that maybe we're kind of hoping that as we go forward, that things are going to return back to that. And I really started thinking about just that saying. And this morning, when I got up early just to prepare for this, fix your thoughts on what is pure, what is true, what is admirable, what is right. And started really thinking about that, realizing that we're moving to this time where as believers, yes, we've been given this little bit of freedom, if I can call it that, to start worshiping again together. But we shouldn't be using that freedom for almost selfish gain. We need to be fixing our thoughts on Christ. Because as soon as we start doing that, that starts influencing our actions, it starts influencing our character. And then we start putting into practice the things that we should be putting into practice. And so really been thinking about that. And thinking about scripture now specifically, that when we think about it, it's not good enough just to read scripture. It's not good enough just to know where things are in scripture. We should be putting scripture into practice every single day. And that's been a really challenging thought for me. And then we start thinking about it because, yes, we've been able to go out. We've been able to go out to buy groceries. We've been able to go out to medical supplies if we need it. But we've always been able to hide behind a face mask. And now we start seeing this time where we're kind of going, but the way we always did things was different to the way things are now. But what has our thoughts and our fixture and our gaze been on? And going forward, what is our thought and what is our fixture and what are we going to put our gaze totally on? And we start thinking that, if we forget what scripture says in terms of how to live our lives, I believe we kind of lose our witness. And I believe Paul is giving us a very sort of clear exhortation, this very clear, go forward and make a difference. Go forward and be different. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Think about things that when people see you, they're going to actually not see you, they're going to see God. They're going to start praising God because of the way we're living our lives. And so that's been a really, really big challenge for me just this morning. That when people see me, are they seeing Jordan and a whole bunch of stuff that Jordan's doing? Or are they seeing God and what is happening? Keep putting into practice all that we've learned. One of the things that about me and not about anybody else is that we learn a lot of stuff about ourselves during a time like lockdown. And we start realizing a lot about ourselves, learning a lot, and we change for a while, but then my human nature and my nature is to kind of almost revert back to my default. And I've really been thinking about that and challenging myself, and maybe this is the challenge that I wanted to leave with all of us this morning. What is our default going to revert back to? And when we start thinking about that, I think that's a bit of a difficult challenge. What is our default going to revert back to? Because we don't know what normal is going to be looking like. And this brings me up to this thought that, so during this time, I don't think I've done as many online Zoom, Skype, Google Hangout meetings that I've ever done. And so, being involved in all these different groups from is youth ministry dead? Is traditional ministry dead? The new normality, digital natives, all that kind of stuff. And one thing that has come out in all of these sort of conferences, Skype calls, Skype meetings, Skype coaching sessions that I've been involved with and had the privilege to be part of, there's this thought coming out that we're living in this changing world, that we've hit the next revolution. So you'll know we've gone through 4 revolutions so far, the industrial revolution, things like that. Now we're hitting the digital revolution. And not only hitting it, we're kind of in the middle of it. And start thinking about that as has my thought been on how do I share the gospel in this time of this digital revolution? And realizing that, this is where the church has kind of found itself forced into. And what has our thought been on? What have we been fixing our gaze upon during this time? And so I know, yes, I've shifted slightly away from what the scripture is saying here, but kind of realizing that we're living in this time where just because we did something in the past doesn't mean that that's what we're going to or should be doing in the future. And because we need to keep putting into practice all the things that we've learned during this time of lockdown. Because hopefully one of the things that we've all had the opportunity to do is to stop, just to take stock and to reflect and to kind of going, if I had a do-over, how could I have done that differently? And I think that's the opportunity where we find ourselves on moving into the verge of level 3, that we have this opportunity to put into practice all that we have learned during this time, to put into practice all that we've heard God saying to us in our daily times that we've been able to go through together as a community. And it's been amazing to see that as a community, how we've still been so connected on digital platforms. And yes, there's obviously issues we've got to work through, like data usage and all that kind of stuff. But are we going to be putting into practice all that we have learned? And that brings me back to kind of the thought that I want to close on. That, as I was saying earlier, it's not good enough just to read Scripture. It's not good enough just to know where Scripture is. We need to let Scripture change and transform us. Because remember, as we've been saying, that when we look at the gospel and we see the gospel is transformative. The gospel transforms us. The gospel takes us away from what we had as a normality and brings us to a totally different new normality. And so the challenge I want to leave with all of us this morning is, what and how are we going to put into practice the things that we have learned during this time? So yes, we look forward to the time come from the first where we're able to get together. We look forward to the time where we can worship together, that ecclesia coming together. And yes, we know it's going to be different. But we look forward to the time, that corporate time of worship as the body. And so really asking, what are we going to put into practice? What lessons have we learned from this lockdown? What are we going to be taking forward with us? So please stay safe, keep warm, and God bless. And we look forward to seeing you all soon.